and offering an IronHacks platform that participants like you can use to solve grand challenges using data. I will be showing a presentation to give you an overview about the COVID-19 data science challenge that we are now starting very soon. I should say the COVID-19 data science challenges, because it's not just one that we are planning to run. We're actually thinking of a series. And before I actually go into the details of that challenge, I'll give you a little bit of background on what IronHacks is about, so that you know what your potential is for contribution to the broader global good and the challenges we're facing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, hoping that this is all going to work fine. Okay, so presentation mode, and then let's go. IronHacks, hacking for innovation to solve grand challenges. That's our slogan, and that's what we're trying to do. What I'm going to talk about background, who we are, what is IronHacks, its past and its future, and then looking into the data science challenges and more details about the task and the process. Alcodi, Research Center for Open Digital Innovation, we really look into how can we empower individuals that use digital technologies, and those you might be well familiar with, ranging from cloud, IoT, that connect everybody, mobile, social media, and for sure also the constant advancement in the area of machine learning, analytics, and data science. And for that, we have been focusing on how can we build platforms that bring people together so that they can do that without actually having to go somewhere, without having to work at a particular company, or without having to basically constrain to a certain setting. They can just do it at their own time when they want to. From a background point of view, we are an interdisciplinary group. We have different skills, trained in social fields, social sciences, economics, communication, but also computing, data science, and engineering. Well, here are a few pictures. People that have been working on IronHacks over the years. We actually started with IronHacks already in 2016. And here is a selected team that is now pushing forward the core COVID-19 data science challenge, where we as a team decided, okay, let's do something that we can actually fight or help this to overcome this pandemic. In the call, we have Elizabeth. You heard her introducing me, but we also have Matt in the call, which is our chief developer behind the platform that we are right offering you to use. Well, what's IronHacks? Well, let me give you a bit of background. In the past, we thought innovation is for special people that work for big companies and are walled off behind their R&D walls. No, we think it's actually about people out there that use platforms, and you see a range of them like Topcoder, Kaggle, Challenge.gov, or IronHacks to innovate. So these digital platforms offer new ways to invite people to participate and solve problems, and give them not just a voice, but actually a hand, because we give you access to very unique data and also other tools that you can use, and feedback and ranking processes that you can use to improve and really, really do something good. Well, so it's a platform that allows people around the world to use data to solve problems, in particular those that matter to society. And here are a few examples of problems that matter to society: healthy living, affordable housing, and now also COVID-19, because we're all affected by it. Well, there's this strong focus on solving, questions of, how many incidents will we get, how many people, what's the actual true fatality rate? But there's a broader question of what's the impact of COVID-19 in terms of social economic terms. What's the risk associated from not adhering to the norm of social distancing? What's the impact on aspects like unemployment? And because that also matters for us in the long run, because if overall the economy is going down. And those questions also matter to people that make important decisions, the governments. The governor here, for example, in Indiana, where Purdue is located, the state where Purdue is located in, but also leaders of big companies have to think about those questions. IronHacks has decided as a group to launch a platform that offers a new hacking experience. So it's not a traditional hack that you maybe have participated in And maybe that's also something Elizabeth could ask now in the chat, because I have limited ability now to interact with you in the chat. You might have participated in a hack, and typically you go somewhere, like you spend like 24 hours, 36 hours, or maybe it's 2 days, you barely sleep, and then you work there, you have mentors, and it's very physical. Purdue IronHacks, it's more long-term, it's iterative. It is all virtual, and you go through iterations, so you have actually opportunity to improve, and we use also digital tools to score you. So you can basically innovate with very unique data that we give you access to in an environment that allows you to use them already in a kind of pre-processed way, and then you can create new visualizations or statistical models to solve questions. It's a competition, yes, but we also support community interaction. It's virtual, and besides getting prize money, there's also other ways to gain reputation, because we will actually feature the final models publicly. I shouldn't say we, it's actually our partners, which is in this case now, the state, it's the Management Performance Hub in Indiana. Depending on the challenges, we have different partners that then feature the results. In the past, when we ran IronHacks, as I mentioned, we already ran it several times, we focused on web development, mesh-up design, so using data to mesh them up in an interactive web application. So skills that participants had, we asked for related to HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and D3GS, which is a very powerful visualization library that is used to build interactive charts, maps, and overlay them. And that was the focus in the past. Now we have shifted. We've shifted to data science. We will also looking into different skills. We're looking into data science skills and also other programming skills. R and Python are our focus, because Python, for example, is the #1 language used among data scientists. But we also offer R. Here's a process, how that works, like in a journal. You might have spotted that already on our website. So we start out with kind of a kickoff, and then before the kickoff, we have some training or info session, or just info material that you can access at any time, to make sure you feel actually comfortable with the environment, and you know what to do. And then we start the hack. Also looking into a little bit on the activity of the participant on the platform, and you go through this iterative process. So each time you submit, and then we evaluate those. And then there is a final ranking of your solutions, and then we actually award the winners. Here are kind of few key insights, what the platform offers. I might have a chance to actually show it to you also. There's for sure the registration. You might have already looked into that. You see the page. You can already click on the upcoming hack. You see their description. And as soon as we open registration, you will see more. We have then a dashboard for you where you can see per phase how you score, depending on the dimension you score in. We also have a cloud-based editor that you can use, and there's also then a forum to interact and ask questions. The cloud-based editor in the past was actually built for web development, so you could immediately host your application. We had a preset file structure for you. And now this editor looks different, and I'll talk about this in a little bit. What's the focus of our platform? We want to make it scalable. We want to support user experience, real-time feedback, and I have to mention it also, the platform also supports research actually on how these digital platforms make you perform better, increase your productivity. NSF has actually helped us to build IronHacks. Without the National Science Foundation, we wouldn't be able to actually offer that. And right now, it's also still supported by the National Science Foundation to some extent, in addition to support from Akodi, the team itself, because we would like to further improve it and to further improve its features and the process so that hackers become even more productive. And that's also a secondary goal at this point. Here are a few figures of how many have participated. I have to say, finishes that went actually through the complete process. And not those that just went for one phase and then dropped out. It's actually those that finished. We had more than 1,000 actually that started. In the end, we had more than 600 that actually completed the full process, and then also were able to win some rewards. We'll just skip over that. And rewards, I talk about those rewards, career opportunities, getting an opportunity to be interviewed by a company, getting a certificate, but also prize money. In some cases, you also offer class credits, and there's also the global recognition you can achieve by being visible with your solution featured as a showcase. We also have been offering in the past the mobility program. Participants from other countries were able to actually travel to our Cody and become a team member for a certain while as a fellow. Unfortunately, right now during COVID-19, this is a little bit difficult to do that in case someone comes from another state country. However, the global recognition and showcasing the solutions is still there. Here are a snapshot of partners, and some of those you might know. I've mentioned them already. We had also Red Hat as a partner. You might know Red Hat is a leading open source software company, which was recently bought also by IBM. There are other partners that are local, that work with us locally, that support us also in setting up certain physical events in the past, or right now blended events if you're thinking of a award ceremony where we have a virtual award ceremony and we would be still acting physically. Oops. Here, just an example for you what were tasks we asked in the past. You should develop an application, online app that answered a user of that app, a citizen like you, to find a safe and affordable district to live near the Stern School of Business in New York. Sorry. And you could actually see on our website some of the solutions that were developed by our participants in the past. This particular task challenge that I'm showing to you right now was actually recruiting beginners that didn't have much background in web development. And when you look at the website and look at some of the showcases, you might actually be surprised what these beginners came up with in a hack that lasted about 10 to 20 days. And very interactive and very useful in terms of a prototype. Here's an example. I don't want to go into details of the past because I want to focus on the future. So now we have a different editor. We have a different workspace. So the IronHacks platform offers you a state-of-the-art data science environment now. There is a Jupyter Lab, which Jupyter Lab is the next generation of a notebook interface. So what I would now be interested in, and you could answer that question, I think Elizabeth might be also putting that in the chat, have you ever been exposed to the Jupyter Lab before, or Jupyter Notebooks? It is interactive. It allows you to use the notebook, but in addition to that, you can also run a console, a terminal, and you can also actually just execute code filed in Python or R there directly. You can also create markdowns. We also offer access to BigQuery. We have pre-processed the data for the future upcoming COVID-19 hacks in a BigQuery environment that you can access with libraries built for R and Python through your notebook to query them using the simple SQL commands. Don't worry, the data is already pre-processed, removed empty cells, made it quite easy for you. As you might know, data science, a high percentage, 50 to 80% of your time goes into pre-processing if you work on a real world challenge, not things you do maybe in a class or not things you typically do. But we try to take care of that and pre-process the data to a high extent so that you have less work to do on that. So the key skills now with this new environment is really that data science, that you can at least do descriptive analysis, you visualize, and most importantly, also predictive modeling. Regressions is something you should know in order to actually work on the upcoming challenges, because all of them will have prediction tasks. So what I'm now going to try is to see So let me go in this, jumping through. Should actually log out, I guess. So when you now log in, and this is something, I hope you see this right now. Sometimes there's a little bit of a lag on sharing. So, I just signed in. If you have registered, there's a Google sign in. And if you have a Gmail, it's quite straightforward and easy. It loads then. And then you should, see here upcoming hacks. This is the upcoming one that we're launching very soon. And there's also the one for for the fall. And here you basically also then see a bit more description on this one. And here you see that, here the little icon here that brings you to the workspace. What I like to do, just go back. So, logging into the workspace. And you see, I use the dark mode because I like it, but you don't necessarily have to do that. You can also go in a bright mode. Let's see. Bit of a lag. So what you see here right now is, hope the bandwidth is not lagging too much. You see the lab, which also offers you to run notebooks. I've just loaded one here for you, but you can do more. So in case you haven't run in your life a notebook, so it's in cell-based structure, I've already executed the first cell. I'm going to now to execute the second one. Well, it's going to work all just fine. I'm going to go to the next one. And I see here that's actually some COVID analysis. I hope you can see that right now. And it's an interactive one that you can also, zoom in and out here. Run here the next one as well. This is the data visualization that we're down on cases. You see the data of this developer here, ended, so we don't have any data here anymore because I only have data on May. We actually give you much more recent data. You get it up to June, July, so very recent data. And here, this is cumulative cases you can show, and this is an interactive one. There's another one here where you can also adjust the time window. So you need to see that. See cases from the different states in the United States, scrolling down. Well, we will actually do some, in the training session, offer some basic introduction into the lab and how you work also with a notebook if you haven't done that, so that you know how to do this, that you don't feel comfortable, that you feel comfortable with it. So if I'm in here, I can, how you get out here, how I add a new cell up there, how I, enter there, how I write then, basic commands in there, how I just interact with the notebook itself and how you execute that. You might already know that, you might not need that. What is also kind of interesting for you to know that you can also say, I'm running now a terminal. And then, if you're more a command line person, you can just run your commands here and you see, for example, I have now, I see the notebooks that I've loaded just right now in my workspace. I have just shown you a Python notebook that was written in Python. I have here another one that is an R notebook. You just see there's a bit of lag with the internet. And this is in an R console. So you see, I can support the different kernels here. So I should say kernel. And this one is in R. And I'm not going to run this through. This is one that actually shows how to query data from BigQuery. You might also know that. If not, there will be tutorials after the registration where we give you examples. We give you a test data set. You can run some of the basic commands just to pull your data into your notebook and then use libraries that tidyverse, and to manipulate those. You can also run basic SQL commands with these libraries and without actually having to actually go to the BigQuery. You can do this all in a notebook. You can do this in memory, and with that, you don't overload your notebook. Okay, so let me just go back. So sometimes there's always a little bit of like that. Let me go to the slides back. Okay, so back to presentation mode. Yeah, so there's a kind of a brief demo of what your website will look like that you have direct access to. You would need a GitHub account. It links to, so the registration authentication is with GitHub. Sorry, not authentication. So that is something also to keep in mind for participation, that you would need a GitHub account to authenticate. In an easy way, you basically just click on it, and then you're basically in the notebook. So we're somewhat similar to Kaggle. In case you have participated in a Kaggle competition, Kaggle is, I would say, the leading data science platform. that has a company that has been bought by Google a few years back. For sure, there are certain things that we don't have. We don't have that many notebooks, but our process is more interactive and iterative, gives you more opportunity to learn. And right now, we also, I should mention that as we move through the details of the challenge, we will give you access to some unique data sets that you might hopefully enjoy. Now we're here, we've arrived at the COVID data science challenges. That's where I'm going to talk a little bit more about what data are we going to give to you and what is roughly the task. I'm not going to reveal the detailed task because that will be done as soon as we actually officially start the competition. COVID-19. If you have followed the news or talked to friends about it, one of the most difficult things is actually prediction. In terms of predicting how the cases evolve, what the actual infection rates are, what the true death rate is, but also other things. How will the economy develop? How will the social interaction evolve? Will we go back to normal or not? So it's all about prediction. It's not necessarily always linear. To some extent, we see some linear patterns here, but sometimes it's not. So it's been quite difficult. And so we're inviting our participants throughout a series of challenges to help us to predict. Sometimes related to behavior that look quite linear and where actually a linear model or a logistic regression might quite well, but also within a linear model where you do a lot of transformation and you get some quite good predictions, but running some other models might make the predictions even more accurate. So that's what we'd like to actually see, that you're trying some additional models, that you're just trying to see how we can improve the prediction. So that's what the COVID-19 challenges are about, to predict the COVID impact in social and in economic terms, focusing on data coming, for example, from mobile phones, where we have social mobility patterns and see where people go, and getting indexes, which we call social distances, which you don't have to calculate yourself. They're already pre-calculated. We give them to you. Or also getting insight about visitor counts, where do people go, how many visitors are at McDonald's, or also how much money do people spend with some credit card information at really bigger brands. Also unemployment claims. So these are data we have. I think I have this also in the latest slide deck. And we're using this data. You would be going through an iterative process. And as shown before, we follow the traditional IronHacks process. We start registration, then we start with the info session tutorials. Don't worry, you don't have to be there in real time. It's available online. You can use it on time. We will have some sessions where we do some live demos. We also kind of a Q&A session that we have prior and during the hack, where you can just pop in and say, I have a question related to that data. I have a question related to that model, and we try our best to help you. We are not going to develop the solution for you, though, but we're definitely going to help you, in particular if you have questions related to data, the schema, or in general how the data was collected because you don't understand the results. We definitely ask that, and also specifically to the technical issues I mentioned. How do I get access to BigQuery? How do I write an SQL command, for example? Once we have that completed, we then actually start the competition, and we would need a minimum of 60 to 100 people for that. So if you have friends that also have some skills in data science, or just interested in building their skills, you might ask them whether they also want to participate, or just spread the word yourself, because we need a few more people to actually help us tackle that challenge. Then we start, we have the first submission, we release the scores, and so on, and at the end we award. So you can improve your model over time because you'll see how good it performs. The data you'll be using, I mentioned, are quite unique. A large amount of data comes from SafeGraph, which is a company that has detailed data collected using mobile phones, but other devices about, they call them pattern data, social behavior, where people go, visitor counts. We have social distancing metrics there. We also have transaction data. We have data from the state of Indiana, very granular data about COVID cases, not just at the county level, but even more granular. And also from Indiana workforce development, unemployment claims, skill data, at a granular level at the zip code level. Yeah, to make sure that you're not struggling with the data, we've invested time to pre-process them and have created BigQuery data sets for you, really reduce them. In the beginning, we're talking about terabytes. Now we make them actually easy to handle for you. We removed missing data sets, and you don't have to merge so many tables. And it's at a size that you can easily work with it, even if you don't have that much experience with big data yet, because we've reduced it. Also, I wanted to mention that the first tag, it's a smaller set also on data, more pre-processing done, so that you have less time, that you need less time to actually start modeling. So we try to really simplify this so that you can get started. In later hacks, we're adding more data so that you have also more choices to make from. And that's something I wanted to also share. That makes it then also maybe a little more difficult because you have more data to work with. Because the data you have from out there come from different levels, county level, zip code, census level, etc. We didn't want to make you that choice. We tried to already take care of all of that and to have them all on the same level, and you don't have to worry about aggregating up and things like that. Well, here's an example. Develop and execute a Python or R code in your Jupyter notebook that predicts COVID-19 related risks or impacts using this data set provided to you. I'm not going to reveal exactly what data set will be for the first hack. So you have, in the end, you have two task components. The prediction is the most important one, which we would then evaluate using a simple metrics, well-established metric. And in the end, in the final round, we also ask you to visualize your results. You don't necessarily have to build them interactively, but you should visualize the results in a way that someone like the chief data scientist, Josh, in Indiana, could look at the results and you communicate them in a way that he understands them. What is your prediction? What's the historical development? What's also the uncertainty associated with your prediction? And how? So that is something we want you to do. It's an add-on. So throughout the phases, you don't have to do that. You're more than welcome to already start doing that. It might help you actually doing some plots throughout when you work on your data. Yeah. What do you have to submit? You will submit your CSV file. This is with your predictions. We then have the observed data, we match them, and then from there we evaluate your prediction, and then also we ask you to actually submit your notebooks and some complementary information that help us to understand what you thought when you built them. Pre-libraries in R and Python will be pre-installed. Here's just a few examples of libraries that will be already there. You don't have to take care of the installation. Also, you don't have to worry about any setup of a notebook. You just go there, it's set up for you. Sometimes installing libraries can be very cumbersome, getting all those dependencies sorted out. We'll take care of that. If there's a library missing on that list, you can actually request that during the info session that we added. And this is not the full list, but you will see the list that was installed then once you actually are registered and you're getting started. How do we evaluate you? Accuracy and prediction of the prediction and usefulness of your visualization is in focus, in particular in the first challenge. And later on, as we reach out to people with more advanced skills, we also look more into the actual quality of their code. So those will be the focus. So accuracy of prediction, we use mean square error. Mean square error right now. There are other ways of doing that, but it's a very established. What will be kind of info and tutorial session we're offering? Brief introduction into Jupyter Lab. In addition to that, pointing you to online materials, resources that explain, how the lab could be used. In addition to our short tutorials, BigQuery and Jupyter notebooks, where we actually give you a notebook that already queries from a test data set that you can follow along. Some basic SQL essentials. If you want to use SQL to, group your data sets by week, by certain, let's say, zip codes, etc. Let's just think ahead. And if needed, we might also give you an opportunity how to deal with dates and times. Right now, we've already taken care of that, so you don't have to transform timestamps into dates. So it's all already in the same format. Well, we will award the top 3 solutions. And in addition to that, we also offer other categories. One we call improvement spirit. So if you see that over the time we actually try to improve, you will also have the opportunity to get some prize money. And then an additional award category is also giving some collective incentives. So if the group as a whole has performing better, you can also then win your own reward from that, because if you contribute for improvement of the group as a whole. So there's not just something in there for the top 3, there's in there something for others as well. In total, we have about $3,000 US to spend that come from National Science Foundation and also from partners, or in this case also Cody, from ourselves. And yeah, the detailed total amount for the best solution will be revealed as soon as we release the task. Just give you an incident. In the past, it ranged from $100 up to $500 for the best solution. Well, there's benefits for you, prices. There's benefits beyond just money, because you get recognition, but there's also, I would like to remind you of, a broader impact. For those that are right now out there that would like to get a better understanding of the impact of COVID-19, but also for citizens like you that want to better understand, you know, what is the impact of COVID-19, for example, on the social footprint? Where do people go? Where do people not adhere to social distancing? Where are spots where people crowd and where it's maybe not so safe to go to, because this virus spreads actually quite fast, and it's very hard to understand right now how you can actually keep safe. And for sure, there's a third benefit for COVID-19 research. Researchers like ourselves, like others, try to better understand what COVID-19 means, what the antecedent factors are, why it's happening, why it's spreading, but also what the impact is, predicting the impact of COVID-19. And we have a range of partners here that work with us. I'm very excited to re-emphasize that National Science Foundation is supporting this, but we also have others here, and then for sure also worth mentioning data providers like Safeguard. So we're at the end. What should you do next? I think if you haven't registered, register now. We will also follow up after those info sessions with an email, and you know, it would be nice if you respond to that, you know, so that we also better understand what the concerns are, what technical skill needs, or skill development needs you have, so that we can build that into that. Also questions to timeline about, do I need to be there at a certain point of time? No, you don't have to answer that question right away. There's a fixed submission deadline, and if your application or your model should be scored, you need to meet that deadline. But you don't have to be at a certain time in a WebEx or another kind of session, as long as you meet those deadlines. So let's do it. Let's make impact to solve the grand challenge of COVID-19. That's from my end. And thank you for being here. And I'm now handing over again to Elizabeth.
All right. Thank you, Professor Brunswicker, for that fantastic presentation. Now, if anybody who is attending here today has any questions, do remember that you can post those in the chat box, and I'll be here to answer those for you. If you have any follow-up questions, certainly you can contact us as well. We'll provide an email to you with the session link so that you can review any of the material that we provided here today. And then if you have any questions as you go through that again, don't hesitate to let us know. We'll follow up with you. So I will monitor here for a few minutes the chat box. If anybody wants to submit a question, please feel free to do so at this time. If you have had all of your questions answered, then we look forward to having you signed up on the platform and ready to register when the hack opens.
I see a question here. So Kevin, you mentioned that when will the real data set released? As soon as we start the competition. There's a calendar feature on the platform that will give you exactly the deadlines. And the start of the competition is also implies that the data set will be released, the data set we will be using in the contest. For the training, we'll also give you a real data set, but one that will be not the one that we'll be using. It's only a one small data set for the training purposes. You also have to, highlight that, this is a very unique data set. You have access to that throughout the competition. Typically, you have a subscription fee of like $50,000 to get access to this data. So we'll be releasing those to you during the hack and at the end of the hack, and afterwards, you cannot use that then anymore. The competition is individual. It's not a group competition. However, as I mentioned, you also can ask questions to us in the forum. It's an individual competition, just like on Kaggle. There's also the ability to, contact us during the daily Q&As that we're offering daily, or every second day we offer Q&As.
All right, those are great questions so far. Any other questions from those here who are still attending?
So what I also wanted to say in terms of start date, we're actually watching a little bit and what people do in the workspace. We see also their activity, and then we were actually sending a final survey, and that also gives us an idea, whether you're ready, and then we actually release. We right now have foreseen a very short period for training, only 2 days or 3 days, but we'll actually, wanted to see what you're actually doing and how comfortable you feel. But during the tutorial times, or let's say info session times or tutorial times, you have already a real data set, not the actual data set that we'll be using during the hackathon.
All right, I don't see any other questions in the chat at this time. If you do want to submit a question now, please do so. Otherwise, we'll be wrapping up the session here in just another minute.
Okay, it looks like there's no question. Then Elizabeth, I ask you to close that session, and I thank again everybody for joining today. And we will be holding another info session, I think, on Monday.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining today, and we look forward to seeing you soon in the competition.